So there we go. Finally, we're live here. KO Nation podcast episode, I believe, number 37. They're having a lot of issues, so we're doing it. We're doing it with the cell phones today. Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to doing this show with my boy here, Tony Alvarez. So let's get this moving.
Unbelievable! You want to throw sometime? Bang! Oh, my God! Okay, Jim. 7 rounds to 2.
Hey man, how you doing? I'm glad to have you back on the show.
Good, sir. Glad to be back. Thank you for the invite.
Oh, of course, anytime. Just chill on the patio now. For some reason, couldn't do it in the studio. We're having a lot of technical difficulties, so we're going to the dreaded cell phone. But anyways, so big fight this Saturday. I think one of the biggest fights of the year, and I think this is a fight this is a fight that's going to get the attention of the casual fans. So that's what makes this so big. These are two younger fighters. We need young blood in the sport of boxing. And I think this is going to really get some young fans who don't really, like, I guess you could call them casuals, interested in the sport of boxing. And we definitely just hope, for the most part, that this fight delivers. Tank versus Garcia preview. First question I'm going to ask you, Tony, is this fight worth the price tag? $85. That's a lot. That's a lot to ask for a fight, but obviously, that's what they're asking for. Is it worth $85? Or is this just a money grab? Or is this really a super fight? Even though it's not for a title, it's at 136 pounds. Is this worth $85 of your hard-earned money?
Well, is it worth $85? I'll say it quickly. No, it's not. But
okay,
given the fact that a few years ago that Floyd himself, before Tank went under his own banner, because Tank was under, he's still under the Mayweather Promotions banner, but he's venturing off into his own promotions per se, but he's still under the tutelage of Floyd, and he's still under the tutelage of Mr. Leonard Ellerbe. With that said, Floyd gave him the mantle, saying that he is the next big star of boxing. Now, for lack of a better term, you can take it how he worded it. You can believe it if you want to or not. With that said, as much as I enjoy watching Tank fight, and he's a tremendous fighter. And he's definitely one of the best finishers in the sport. He's definitely up there in the pound-for-pound list. Would I particularly pay $85 to watch it on pay-per-view? No. Would I pay $85 to go into the arena and watch it? Absolutely, I would. But again, when you're under that Mayweather banner, and in a sense trying to be the moneymaker that Floyd was before he ventured off to being solely a promoter, it's kind of hard to say which fight is worth $85 or not. Now, if you're telling me this, if this was, Hagler Leonard or Hagler Hearns, then you damn right I would pay $85 for it, because I know I'm going to get my money's worth. And that's not to say that Tank and Ryan are not going to deliver, because I think it's going to be a fantastic fight. I don't know if it's going to go the full toll, because both gentlemen are keen on trying to knock each other out. And if you haven't watched All Access on Showtime, you are missing out on good quality entertainment.
Yeah, I haven't been able to check that out yet. I really been gotten tired of these preview shows because I really know a lot about the fighters for the most part. I'm more into just watching the fights. But my mindset on the $85 to interject there is the fight will be worth $85 if it's a good fight. So yes. I think this is the type of fight where if it delivers, then people are not going to be thinking about the $85 they spent. So this is going to kind of set a precedent, because if the fight is not entertaining, or for whatever reason it doesn't live up to the hype, it's going to make people in the future more skeptical to want to pay these big prices for pay-per-view. So you really want you really want them to deliver on what they're offering, because it's like they're asking you to buy an expensive car, and then if you buy the expensive car and it's, it's running rough, or it's the first 3 weeks that you have it, it breaks down, it's at the shop. This is, they're selling you something great, and if it doesn't live up to the expectation, that's where I think the skepticism is going to come. So this is kind of a maker. I wouldn't say it's a make or break for boxing, because it's really not. But for Golden Boy Promotions, Garcia's their biggest star at this point. They're crossing over the street to fight against Tank Davis, who fights for Showtime. Garcia fights on DAZN. And this is like kind of a cross promotion, which is great for the sport of boxing if this does become successful, because as you would know, I mean, you're a pretty avid boxing fan, aficionado. Is boxing, it's very difficult to make fights.
Correct.
Because of these different factions that are involved, different promotional companies, different contracts fighters have with television networks and stuff. So the fact that they put this together, I definitely got to give them an A+. Is it going to live up to the hype? That's actually what we're going to talk about here. And we can kind of go into that a little bit, but let's give a preview here. Do you want me to give my preview first, or would you like to give a preview? Well, I'll leave that up to you.
Well, before we go into the preview, I was going to lay this question on you. Okay, so say it does deliver, and it's a good fight, which you and I both think it's going to be, because like I said, and like we both said, they're both very good, talented fighters. Now, let me ask you this question. Should it finally happen, even though there's rumor to say that they have a deal done, but let's just say if it does happen, if we finally get the fight that I know I've been wanting to see for a minute, say that Errol Spence and Terrence Bud Crawford finally come to terms and sign on to fight. If Tank and Garcia delivers, do you see if Crawford and Spence do eventually fight, do you see the price upping because of the success of Tank and Garcia?
Possibly, but I think it's a mistake, because Crawford and Errol Spence are not crossover material the same way that Garcia and Tank are, and part of that is because Spence and Crawford are a little bit older, and they're not that much older, but you have to kind of look at things from the aspect of what do young people like to do in their spare time compared to people that are even, people who are in their mid-20s compared to people in their early 30s. It's a little bit of a different demographic as far as, the types of apps they use on their phone, different social media things, their involvement. The younger generation is more in.
What you doing? You doing the thing?
Mm-hmm. Oh, some more technical difficulties.
Okay, I think I cut out for a second.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so that's the difference there. I think they might try to do it at $85 if they get it signed, but I think that's going to be a mistake. But on the other hand, if they do fight and it's in the summertime, it actually might be good for their pay-per-view sales, just because they're not going to be competing with a lot of other sports at the same time. I think the summertime is a very good time to try to put on these pay-per-view events. It's not something that's really been done a lot in the past. And I think some of these, companies, they're reluctant to do so. And yeah, it's just pretty interesting that, that you brought that up. But I think they'll do it, but I don't think it's going to be the right move.
As far as
let's move on from that. I'm just a little bit curious on your thoughts. Who do you like here? Obviously Tank is the favorite, but do you want to do a breakdown, or you just want to give me a prediction?
Well, let's break it down. Let's go to the tail of the tape.
Okay. You want me to give the tail of the tape? I'll give it to you.
Yeah,
so Ryan Garcia. I got my dogs out here barking and stuff, but anyways, Ryan Garcia 5'10". Tank Davis about 5'5". He's squat. He's kind of built like Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
Ryan Garcia is more built like Oscar De La Hoya, if you want to make a comparison there. Tall, lanky, got a good jab. They're weighing in at 136 pounds. It's a catch weight. I believe there's a 10-pound rehydration clause, which I think they're going to both weigh in again on Saturday morning. That's going to hurt Ryan Garcia because Ryan Garcia's last couple of fights have been at 140 pounds. And he's a big boy. So, but I believe he's been training for the last few months, and he spent a good amount of that time getting the weight off. So I think when he was got into training camp, his weight was down. So I think in that sense, it's not going to hurt him too much. But obviously, if you have to drop weight, you lose some of your strength, you lose some of your punch resistance. That's going to hurt him. Tank Davis, I think, is going to be perfectly fine at 136. He's probably I don't know if he's going to make the weight easily, but I think he's going to be a little bit more comfortable at the weight. He's just a shorter guy. He's probably a little bit better defensively than Ryan Garcia, so that's something that you got to see in his favor.
Well, not to mention Tank does have a real good chin because he really hasn't been hit with a really big-time blow in his career. And that's one thing I want to see if Garcia does tag him. How good is Tank's chin, and can he take a punch?
But at the same time, if you just look at from a body type, his body type seems like he's more equipped to absorb punches. He's got a thick neck, he's got big shoulders.
Tank is very compact, yes.
He's very compact. Defensively, I mean, he's no Floyd Mayweather, but he's pretty defensively responsible for the most part. He does get hit quite a bit, but part of that is because when you're somewhat of an aggressive fighter, or usually actually what he does is you will see that in the early rounds, he doesn't really throw a whole lot of shots. He will kind of, let his opponent kind of throw punches, and he'll kind of get an idea of the power of his opponent in the first 3-4 rounds. And then once he kind of has an idea of, what punches his opponent likes to throw, the trajectory of what's coming at him, and he gets a little bit more comfortable in there, then he starts kind of opening up and letting his hands go a little more. And that's kind of the approach that I think he likes to do. I think in this fight, that might cause him some issues because Joe Goosen is training Ryan Garcia, and I believe Ryan Garcia's best strategy is to just keep Tank on the outside, not get into really any exchanges and not get too brave, especially. So, for example, what I noticed in fights is, and this was like the last fight with Hector Luis Garcia, Garcia was having a lot of success against Tank Davis in the first maybe 4 or 5 rounds, and was probably maybe even or maybe ahead on the scorecards after 5 rounds. And he started getting a little bit of confidence. And then what happened was once he started to get a little bit of confidence, he started exchanging punches with Tank Davis, and that's where he got hurt. So I think if you're going to fight Tank Davis, almost to beat him, you have to turn it into a little bit of a boring fight. And then if you're up on the scorecards as the fight goes on and Tank starts to get desperate, that's when you can kind of walk him into shots. For example, Ryan Garcia, he's got a great left hook. He's fighting a fighter in Tank Davis that Tank Davis is a southpaw, so his right hand is his lead hand, and Garcia's conventional orthodox. So his lead hand is his left hand. His left hook, the left hook and right hook are the 2 best punches for both guys that I would say.
Correct.
But
Tank
Garcia
can catch you with the uppercut, though. Tank can get you with the uppercut from an angle.
But I think what Garcia's strategy needs to be is to keep him on the end of that jab and try to make it, as the fight goes on, Tank might start reaching with that right hook and come up short, and that's where Ryan Garcia can counter with that left hook. The only problem with Garcia is not known as a great defensive fighter. He leaves his chin in the air, but you have to try to get Tank a little frustrated and get him to reach with his shot. And when he reaches in, that's when you can catch him with a counter shot when he's a little bit exposed. But it's hard to put Tank in those positions. But that's why once you get ahead on the scorecards, you want to make him press a little bit. You want to catch him coming in with counter punches. But obviously, Tank Davis is going to be looking for that left hook a lot of the fight. So you have to mix it up a little bit. You know, you got to throw some right hands. You got to throw some body shots. You got to mix up your attack. So not be so predictable where Tank can walk you down and land his big shots. So that's kind of my assessment of what each guy kind of needs to do. Or I kind of said more what Garcia needs to do. Tank really, I think, needs to be Tank. But at the same time, I think he needs to press the action a little bit more in the early rounds and not be so inactive and get behind by losing rounds. Because I think Garcia's talent, his reach advantage, he's got a great coach. I think they're going to come in with a good game plan. And it's going to hurt Tank a lot if he has to press the action when he's behind, because that's when he can start making mistakes. Give me your thoughts.
Well, remember this, though. This ain't the first time Tank has obviously fought somebody with the same amount of height as Ryan Garcia. Because remember, back in June of 2021, it was the same thing when he fought Mario Barrios, but he looked very comfortable against Barrios. And obviously, Barrios is not no Ryan Garcia. But
yes.
Tank per se is not going to be, at a loss for not knowing his game plan, fighting a bigger fighter that has a reach advantage and a height advantage. I do agree, since Garcia does have the 4.5 inch in height and the 3.5 inch in reach, obviously he should be establishing his jab. Because, your counterpunch, it's hard to counter when your jab is effective. And in Tank's case, Tank's like to live on the inside, likes to go to the body, and obviously he likes to catch you in different angles with his left hook and his left uppercut. Now, I think Garcia would have to cut the ring off and not let Tank move around. Have him in one spot. If you could try to get him up against the ropes and get him in the corner, do so, because if Tank has room to run around and be free, that's going to be a problem for Ryan Garcia. So if you are Garcia, you may have to be the aggressor and try to keep Tank in one spot and not let Tank move around and utilize his speed.
Well, it's an interesting thought, but I guess the part where I disagree there is I don't see Tank move like as a mover, like moving a whole lot. I know he can box if he has to, but to me, it's hard to box a guy from the outside when the guy's got a big height and reach advantage. So I don't know if that's the strategy that I would utilize, but maybe that might be a good strategy for Tank to set traps to try to box him from the outside, just because of the lack of experience. Let's be honest here. Ryan Garcia hasn't been all that active. He hasn't had a lot of fights in the last few years.
He's not. Right.
He hasn't fought the best opposition. So, that might be a little bit of, I guess, for lack of a better term, a facade, like his record and how he's looked against some of these opponents, because he hasn't really fought the best competition. So he's pretty much had it his way for the most part in his career, because these are setup fights that they set up for him. That fight against Luke Campbell where he got dropped, he showed some that he could deal with some adversity. He got up, but Campbell, not known as a really big puncher, another southpaw, but definitely a different build from Tank Davis. But that's just kind of something to look at there. But yeah, I could kind of see what you're saying with that. Tank trying to box from the outside, just because you could lure Garcia into making mistakes just because of his lack of experience in big fights. And I was watching some of the press conference today, the final press conference, and he had a lot to say, and I think he was getting underneath Tank's skin. I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing. I think Tank might maybe just go in there and be like, you know what? I'm just going to go and knock this guy out and go home early. What do you think?
Well, I mean, he hasn't fought since July of 2022 in regards to Tank Garcia. Granted, yes, he's only 24 years old, so I mean, he's still a young man. Tank is 28, which is only 4 years older than him. But again, my big thing is how much of ring rust are we going to see from Ryan Garcia? Because again, he's been inactive for almost a year. Like I said, from July of last year to now is a very, very long time to be inactive. And I think Tank has fought at least twice since then, if I'm not mistaken. So definitely, I think Tank will have the fresher legs. And I think if it goes into the championship rounds, I think Tank may have the more stamina to last than Garcia due to the fact that Garcia has had lack of ring time. How do you feel about it? How do you feel about that analogy?
I mean, you pretty much hit the nail on the head. I mean, that's really that's kind of the thoughts here is, one guy's fought the better opposition. One guy's been more active. One guy appears to be the better fighter on paper. So those are huge advantages, and then obviously, he's coming off some good victories. So his confidence is got to be pretty high. He's fought different styles. He's fought tall guys. He's looked good against them. He's figured out how to win those fights by knockout. He fought Isaac Cruz, which was a difficult fight for him. His hand was broken. He fought through that adversity. He showed he could box in that fight if he had to off the back foot. He's had a better range of styles that he's been up against. So Garcia, I don't know. I don't know how he's going to necessarily deal with Tank's power. And the bottom line is two big punchers. Usually, I think Stephen Breadman Edwards, I don't know, you're familiar with him, but he's a trainer of Caleb Plant. He said something, very good boxing mind. He said the fighter who has the better chin in a fight is the fighter who's more powerful. And I'm trying to paraphrase what he was saying, but the more powerful fighter, I guess you could say, in the fight is the guy, I guess, who could take the better shot. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you got two punchers. Both guys are big punchers, but the guy who takes the punches better is really the bigger puncher in the fight. If that makes any sense. I'm probably totally butchering his analogy, but that's kind of what I got from that was you got two guys who are going to be throwing big shots. Whoever's got the better chin is the better puncher in this matchup. And from what I've seen is Tank's got more knockouts. He's got more fights. He's the bigger hitter. I guess the bottom line is what you want to look at here is who's going to be able to land the big shots and what's going to happen when that occurs and who's better defensively. If I had to flip a coin, I would say Tank Davis is better defensively. I mean, Ryan Garcia's not his. Ryan Garcia's offense is his defense, for lack of a better for lack of a better analysis there. But that's kind of how I view it.
Sometimes for some fighters, their best offense is their defense, which helps to establish their jab and also sets up their left hook or their right cross, whichever their knockout punch is. Like I said, there have been times to where Garcia just will come sideways and just will sneak in with his good head movement and catch you with an uppercut and knock you down. Because both of their KO ratios are outstanding. Because in 23 fights, Garcia has 19 knockouts. In 28 fights,
but you got to look at who. But at the same time, you have to look at who they've been knocking out.
True.
Your camera went dead.
Oh, good Lord. Oh, technology.
Okay, there we go. But anyways, moving on from that, I think we pretty much gave our thoughts on the analysis. Let's do some predictions now. Who you like in this fight?
Until somebody proves they can beat him and outbox him, I'm still taking Tank. Until somebody can box him and outbox him, I'm rolling with Tank Davis.
And is that by stoppage, or you think it's going to go the distance?
I think he'll stop him in the 10th round. I'm calling a stoppage in round 10.
All right, so just for the sake of argument, I'm going to go with Ryan Garcia, and I'm going to go with Ryan Garcia by 12-round decision, and I'm going to give you my reasons why.
Okay.
And mind you, this is more for sake of argument, but at the same time, I see a path to victory, and that was kind of what I explained. And with the right game plan, I think he can outbox him. You kind of were seeing that a little bit when Tank Davis fought Rolando Romero, but Rolando Romero lacked the talent and the amateur background to really execute his game plan, and it's just a lack of skills. But he was doing pretty decent in there for a while till he got caught. I think if you're Garcia, it's like if you're gonna fight Tank Davis, you start hitting him and you're starting to have a success. You got to stick to what's working. You can't get too bold. You can't get too brave, because Tank Davis can take you out. If he hurts you, he's a great finisher. He can take you out. So you got to fight smart. And I mean, if you're really outboxing him, and then, like I was saying earlier, and you're having a lot of success and you're winning boxing, then you can maybe sneak in some shots. Let him come in. Let him come to you, trying to dive in with shots, and then you can counter him and set up counter-punching opportunities and set traps. So if I was fighting Tank Davis, I think that's what Garcia needs to do. He seemed very confident today at this press conference. He might have gotten under Tank Davis's skin. So that being said, I'm gonna go against the grain here. He's not a huge underdog. I'm gonna go with Ryan Garcia by 12-round decision. It's maybe 8 rounds to 4, 7 rounds to 5. I think both guys are going to be very respectful of each other's power, and I think what's going to happen down the stretch is Tank Davis is going to come on, but he's going to give away too many rounds. And I think at that point, certain fighters, as the fight goes on, especially you're fighting a guy like Garcia who's got some pop in his punches, your power diminishes as the fight goes on. And Tank Davis is not somebody who throws a whole lot of shots. So he's somebody that you could take rounds away from and squeak out a decision if you fight smart. So that's my prediction. Any final words before we get going?
I would just say, if you're the fighters, don't leave it up to the judges. That would be that would be the ultimate.
Yeah, I mean that would. Well, I'll say this much about this fight. This fight, whoever wins this fight, if it's an entertaining matchup, the winner of this fight could become a big superstar, not just boxing, but in sports in general. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this plays out, and I love to see the fan reaction after fights. Just on the social medias or whatnot. I mean, I don't really spend too much time on social media, but usually I'll check out a couple websites, I'll read comments and stuff, and you can kind of see if there's a buzz going on. That Caleb Plant and David Benavidez fight from weeks ago, that fight had a lot of buzz. I think it really boosted David Benavidez's stock a lot. So
I agree.
So this is a fight that has a lot of future implications for each fighter. The winner of this one could have a big fight with either Shakur Stevenson or the winner of Devin Haney and Lomachenko. I know a lot of people are picking Haney they're kind of just overlooking Lomachenko, but Lomachenko is a veteran. I mean, he's one of the great fighters of, this generation. So real
fans of the fight game will not overcount Lomo. Because
you can't overlook him, but
Lomo's still that guy.
If you see Devin Haney next to Lomachenko, I mean, he just looks a lot bigger. So that's going to be a big hurdle for Lomachenko because he is quite a bit older now. So that's an interesting fight. But just because of Devin Haney's size and his boxing ability and his ability to really stink the joint out if he has to. So, but that's another conversation we'll have because that fight's coming up, I believe, next month. So we'll probably do a preview for that if you want to do another show on that. But anyways, any final comments or thoughts or before we get out of here?
Are you going to the weigh-in tomorrow?
No, I'm not. I don't think so.
Okay.
Are you gonna be there?
No, I'll be working while it's going on.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't think I'll be there, but I might have a change of heart tomorrow.
Okay, well.
And the weigh-in's gonna be at MGM Grand, or is the fight's at T-Mobile, or
fight's at I think the weigh-in's at T-Mobile, if I'm not mistaken. I want to say the fight. Actually, you know what? That's a good question. Hold on, let me. If the iPad will cooperate with me. Dadgummit, come on now. All right, let's see. Okay, it is at T-Mobile Arena. It'll be at T-Mobile Arena. It'll be at T-Mobile Arena. I think 1:30 is the start for the weigh-in. So I know it's free for fans to attend, obviously. So 1:30 T-Mobile Arena, weigh-in for Tank and Ryan Garcia. Final stare down before they get in the ring and go to fisticuffs. And like I said, I mean, if Garcia does win, it will be a huge win for the DAZN banner, considering that your biggest star right now is Canelo.
Yeah, and plus he's I don't know if I would call him Mexican American, but he's an American of Mexican descent. So that's something, that's a big fan base that will probably support him and be behind him, as well as, he's got about 9 million subscribers on Instagram. So that will definitely grow. He's a brand, so if he wins, it's huge for the sport of boxing. If Tank wins, Tank's been pretty consistent, ticket seller. I think this fight's going to do really well on pay-per-view. Maybe, I don't know, 500,000 to 750,000 range, possibly. Maybe more than that, people are talking, but it seems like it's getting some pretty good buzz. But that being said, we're going to get out of here. Thank you. It's been great having you on the show. I love doing shows with you. Love
always a pleasure
working with you. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to do any baseball with you, but that's a conversation for another time. But anyways,
well, we've only done one game, and we're trying to.
Oh, really?
we only done one game, but we're trying to get more. Like I sent our colleague Tony G the upcoming games, or with ranked teams, and I know he forwarded them to our boss, but we haven't heard anything back yet. So I mean,
I feel you. I'm just poking at you.
I know.
But anyways, I'm just looking forward to working with you guys again because it's always fun. We do high schools. We do announcing for high school sports for NIAA, NFHS Network. So that's kind of our link together. And
but also
we love boxing. We enjoy boxing. Hopefully, we'll do some amateur boxing together at some point.
Yes.
But anyways, to get out of here, KO Nation Podcast, episode number 37. My handle is Kevin at Vegas Valley, my handle is at Vegas Valley Video on Instagram. You can reach Tony G. Not Tony G, Tony A at.
Well, you can catch us on. Well, you can also view into my show that I do with my best friend / brother from another. It's called the Mizzle and Dub Show. You can find us on YouTube, and we also have a Mizzle and Dub Show Instagram page. If I can get to it. But anyhow, it is, if I can find it, which of course technology likes to be a pain lately. I said latest. All right. So our Instagram page is Mizzle_and_Dub_show. So Mizzle and Dub Show with 3 underscores. That's our Instagram page to where we do a teaser of what we preview on the show, and then of course you can catch all of our shows on YouTube. We're up to 40 subscribers, to which we are grateful and appreciative. Of course, you can catch the YouTube page you can catch the YouTube link on our Instagram page.
Word.
To check out our show. We did a recent playoff show covering the NBA playoffs, and we may do a show tonight covering Game 3 of the Warriors-Kings. Talk about the Sixers going up 3 games to none over the Nets, and the other matchup tonight that's going on. I think there's 3 games going on in the association, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I might have to check out one of these games tonight. But and you can well, obviously this is my YouTube channel, Platinum Fights. I have a bunch of fights from my catalog on here. But if you're here, you probably already know that. But if not, my channel is dedicated to classic boxing fights. I have about, 40, 50 fights, most of the fights from my catalog. But yeah, thanks so much. It's been great. KO Nation Boxing Podcast, episode 37.
Thank you.